Mafia boss's mom always ate alone in an empty dining room, until the maid filled it with laughter. Hey family, before I tell you this cold mafia story, please do me one small favor. Like this video, share it, subscribe, and drop a comment so the family can grow. You already know I love you all so much. Now get ready, because this story will freeze your heart, then warm it again. Let's begin. The Costantino mansion was huge. Too huge, long hallways, dead silence, cold air everywhere. 18 seats at the dining table, but only one chair was ever used, and that one chair belonged to Ludovica Costantino, widow, mother of the most feared mafia boss in the region. Every night, she sat alone, staring at empty seats, like ghosts were sitting there. The staff never breathed too loud. The walls listened. Silence was the rule. Silence was survival. Her son, Domenico Christian Costantino, the only heir, cold eyes, stone-faced, at a heart nobody had touched in years. He ran the family empire with perfect control, clean businesses outside, dark influence underneath. People feared him, people respected him, but nobody dared to love him, and nobody dared to love his mother either. Grief kept her frozen since her husband died. She never smiled, never laughed, never spoke more than 2 words. The house felt like a museum of pain. Inside that mansion, there were rules. Strict rules to no laughing, to no chatting, to no mistakes, to no noise. Every footstep had to be soft. Every breath had to be small. The staff moved like shadows because one wrong sound could cost them their job. Or worse. Then one day, something unexpected happened. A young woman knocked on the servants' entrance. Her name was Margherita Ilaria, 23, a simple waitress looking for steady work. She didn't know the mansion's secrets. She didn't know who lived inside. She didn't know the weight of the Costantino name. She just needed money. So when the housekeeper told her, "You'll start with a trial period," she smiled. But the smile didn't last long, because the staff pulled her aside and whispered, "No mistakes, no noise, no emotions. This is not a normal house." Margarita swallowed hard. She felt fear tighten in her chest. But she nodded anyway. She needed the job too much to walk away. And that was the moment. The very moment. Everything in that cold mansion began to change. Margarita took a deep breath and stepped into the dining room for her first evening duty. Hands shaking, heart beating too fast. The lights were low. The air was heavy, and at the far end of the 18-seat table, Ludovica Costantino sat alone, straight-backed, dressed in black, staring at her untouched plate like she was staring into the past. Margarita moved carefully, quietly, placing the plate before her. She kept her eyes down. She remembered the warning, no noise, no mistakes, no emotions. But when she reached for the wine bottle, her hand trembled, and the cork slipped from her fingers, bounced on the table, and rolled toward the chandelier's reflection. Margarita whispered under her breath, "Even the chandelier is judging me today." She didn't mean for Ludovica to hear it. She didn't mean for anyone to hear anything. But Ludovica did. And Ludovica laughed. A soft, warm, fragile laugh that broke the air like glass. The staff standing by the door froze. The butler's eyes widened. A maid dropped a napkin. The house, the cold, silent house, took its first breath in years. Margarita panicked. She bowed her head. "I'm so sorry, Signora." But Ludovica lifted her hand. A small gesture. A gentle one. "It's fine," she said. 2 words. 2 gentle words. Words nobody had heard from her in a very long time. And that laugh, that single human sound, traveled through the mansion like an alarm. On the other side of the hallway, Domenico Christian Costantino stopped walking. He heard it. His mother's laugh. A sound he thought he would never hear again. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed. He walked slowly toward the dining room, silent, controlled, dangerous, without raising a single finger. He reached the doorway and saw her. Margarita, the new maid, standing there, flustered, terrified, but somehow the reason his mother was smiling for the first time in years. Domenico didn't speak. He didn't enter. He didn't question. He only watched her, memorized her face, studied the way she stood, the way she held the wine bottle with shaking hands. And he wondered how a stranger did in seconds what an entire house failed to do in decades. He said nothing, not a word, but a seed was planted, a quiet spark of curiosity, a silent question in his cold mind. And for the first time in a very long time, the Costantino mansion felt like it was waking up from that night on. Something shifted in the Costantino mansion. The next morning, Ludovica asked for tea, but she didn't ask for the butler. She asked for Margarita. The staff whispered. Eyes followed her. But Margarita carried the tea tray anyway. Careful steps, steady breathing. Ludovica didn't speak much, but she watched Margarita pour the tea, and there was a softness in her eyes that nobody had seen in years. The day after that, Ludovica asked for her again, this time to sit with her in the reading room. Margarita held the book while Ludovica listened, peaceful, almost calm. And on the third day, Ludovica requested Margarita to walk with her in the garden. The wind was cold, but Ludovica's voice wasn't. She spoke small sentences, quiet memories, gentle stories she hadn't shared with anyone in years. A companionship formed slowly, quietly, like a candle lit in a dark room. But Domenico noticed. He always noticed. He began appearing in places he normally ignored. One moment he was in the hallway. Next moment he was at the garden door, standing still, watching. He said nothing. He never interrupted. He only observed. Observed how his mother smiled when Margarita spoke. Observed how the housekeeper lowered her voice when Margarita was present. Observed how the mansion seemed lighter. He didn't like surprises. He didn't like unknown variables. And Margarita was becoming one. He studied her the way a strategist studies a new piece on the board. Quiet. Intent. Sharp. She didn't see him most of the time. But he saw her. He saw everything. And while the mansion grew warmer, Domenico's outer world grew colder. The underground was restless. Rivals were watching. Meetings grew tense. Threats grew sharper. His men whispered that he seemed distracted. He wasn't. He simply had more to protect now. His mother. The only softness left in his life. And the woman who somehow brought that softness back. Margarita wasn't part of his world. She wasn't built for danger. She wasn't built for shadows. But she had walked straight into them without knowing. And that made her a problem. A quiet problem. A dangerous variable. One Domenico now had to watch, very closely, whether he wanted to or not. But when something changes in a house ruled by fear, jealousy always follows. The staff began whispering the moment Margarita walked by. Some said she was getting too close to the madam. Some said she must be pretending. Some said she was forgetting the house rules. And some simply resented her. They blamed her for the small changes happening in the mansion. The soft laughter from Ludovica's room. The gentle hum of voices in the hallway. The sudden warmth replacing decades of silence. In their eyes, Margarita was the one breaking the old order. The girl who didn't know her place. The girl who made the house breathe again. And jealousy has a loud heartbeat, even in a quiet mansion. But Ludovica didn't care about the whispers. She kept calling Margarita. Morning tea. Afternoon reading. Evening walks. And little by little, Ludovica began to eat more. She began to speak more. Her voice grew stronger. Her shoulders relaxed. And sometimes, just sometimes, she smiled. The frozen mansion thawed one room at a time. Warmth slipped into corners that had been cold for years. And every staff member felt it. Even if they didn't like it. Even if they didn't understand it. And Domenico, he felt it most. He watched Margarita help his mother take her pills. He watched her wrap a scarf around Ludovica's shoulders when the wind blew too hard. He watched her listen when Ludovica spoke about her late husband. And he respected that. More than he wanted to. He respected the patience. The kindness. The softness. Qualities he had not seen in years, maybe ever. But respect was dangerous for a man like him. Attention was dangerous. Feelings were dangerous. So he stayed cold. He kept his distance. He made his voice harder when she passed by. He trained his face to show nothing when their eyes met. But the truth was simple. He watched her more than he watched anyone in his own house. She was becoming a quiet threat to the emotional fortress he built around himself. And no matter how cold he acted, his attention only grew sharper. Then one night, everything changed. A thunderstorm hit the Costantino estate without warning. Loud, wild, violent. Lightning ripped across the sky. Thunder shook the windows. The kind of storm that wakes old wounds. And for Ludovica, it did. She froze in her bedroom, hands shaking, breath short. The same kind of storm had taken her husband all those years ago. Fear wrapped around her like chains. The staff panicked. They didn't know what to do. But Margarita ran. She rushed to Ludovica's room with no hesitation. She lit candles when the lights flickered. She held Ludovica's hands gently. She whispered steady words. She guided her breathing. In, out, slow, calm, safe. She stayed by her side like she had known her for years, not weeks. Ludovica's panic softened. Her shoulders loosened. The storm outside roared, but the storm inside her began to quiet. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't face her fear alone. What Margarita didn't know was that someone was watching. Domenico. He had come to check on his mother, expecting silence. Instead, he stopped in the doorway. Frozen, as he saw something he had not seen in decades. Gentleness. Real gentleness. Margarita holding his mother's hands, helping her breathe, keeping her steady through the storm. No fear in her eyes. No hesitation. No selfishness. Just pure human warmth in a house that had forgotten what warmth felt like. Something shifted inside him. A crack in the cold wall he had built around himself. A small one, but real. For a moment, he wasn't the Mafia boss. He wasn't the feared man everyone bowed to. He was just a son, watching someone care for the only family he had left. And that sight hit him harder than the thunder outside. This was the moment where the story turned. The moment that changed everything. The moment when the cold mansion and the cold man began to thaw. After the storm night, Domenico changed, but he refused to admit it. He entered a phase of denial that confused everyone. Some mornings he avoided Margarita completely, walking past her like she didn't exist. Other times he appeared suddenly in the same hallway she was cleaning, or at the same door she was opening, or behind her while she was serving tea. Mixed signals everywhere. Cold eyes one moment, silent watching the next. It made the air tight. It made the tension sharp. It made Margarita's hands shake whenever she felt his presence behind her. But while his inner world twisted, his outer world got worse. His Mafia associates noticed the changes in the mansion. They felt the warmth. They felt the shift. And they didn't like it. They whispered questions. Why is the madam smiling again? Why is the boss distracted? Why does the house feel different? Even worse, rival families began to notice too. Domenico was sharp, focused, dangerous. But now they sensed something was pulling his attention inside the home. And in the Mafia world, distraction is weakness. Weakness attracts danger. Danger was approaching quietly. And Margarita, she felt out of place. The staff whispered more loudly now. Some blamed her for the storm night scene. Some said she was changing too much. Some said she was the reason the boss seemed unsettled. Margarita tried staying out of the way. She took quieter paths. She moved faster. She avoided eye contact. But Ludovica kept calling for her. The house needed her warmth. The madam needed her steady presence. And Margarita couldn't refuse kindness where it was needed. Domenico saw this. He saw his mother asking for Margarita again and again. He saw how calm Ludovica became when Margarita entered the room. He saw how the mansion, once cold as steel, had grown softer around this young woman. And he began breaking his own routine. He checked on them more than before. He appeared in rooms he never visited. He watched from doorways with unreadable eyes. Not because he wanted to scare her. Not because he wanted anything from her. But because something inside him was shifting, twisting, waking up. A quiet pull he didn't understand. A soft interest he didn't trust. He fought it. He buried it. But still he watched her. And that quiet attention became impossible to hide. Even from himself. The breaking point came fast. One afternoon, a Mafia associate pushed through the mansion doors without warning. Angry. Loud. Disrespectful. His voice echoed through the hall like thunder. Ludovica flinched the moment she heard him. Her hands shook. Her breath broke. The staff froze. No one dared to step forward. But Margarita moved. Instinct. Not thought. Instinct. She stepped in front of Ludovica, shielding her from the man's rage, standing between danger and the woman who trusted her. The associate didn't expect it. His eyes widened. His anger rose. "Who are you to stand in my way?" he shouted. The sound ripped through the air. Ludovica gasped. The mansion trembled. And then everything stopped. Because Domenico appeared. He didn't rush. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. He walked forward with slow, controlled steps, the kind that make grown men silent. His voice dropped to a level colder than the floor beneath them. "Don't raise your voice in front of her." The associate blinked. In front of who? Domenico's eyes flicked to Margarita. Sharp. Protective. Dangerous in a quiet way. Her. One word. Heavy. Final. The associate's anger died instantly. His shoulders dropped. His voice broke. And within seconds, Domenico's men removed him from the house. No violence, just fear. Pure fear of a man who rarely showed emotion. But this time, emotion showed itself through the cracks. And when the hallway emptied, when Ludovica was escorted to her room to calm down, Domenico looked at Margarita, really looked at her. He said nothing at first. The silence between them was thick, sharp, uncomfortable. Then he motioned for her to follow. He didn't take her far. Only into a quiet corner of the hallway where no one could listen. His voice was cold, controlled, but different. Not empty, not hollow. There was something underneath. "You shouldn't have stepped in front of him," he said. She swallowed. "I couldn't let her be scared." He exhaled once, slow, like he was trying to keep something inside. "You've changed this house," he said. His tone didn't shake, but something inside him did. "My mother. She hasn't been this calm in years." She tried to look down, but he continued. "And you." The pause was heavy. Unmistakable. "You affect things." His voice stayed low, but it wasn't harsh. It wasn't distant. For the first time, it carried truth instead of ice. "I don't know what you're trying to do here," he said. "But this, whatever this is, it's breaking the order in this house." A breath. A crack. A rare slip in control. "And it's breaking something in me too. Not romantic. Not soft. Just honest. A confession wrapped in cold armor. The emotional wall he built for years, finally showing the first real break. This moment, right here, was the shift. The turning point. The line that once crossed, could never be crossed back. From that moment forward, the Costantino mansion was not the same. The dining room, once a cold museum of empty chairs, began to change. At first, it was small things. Ludovica sitting a little straighter. Staff breathing a little easier. The air feeling less heavy. But soon the change took shape. The 18-seat table was no longer a lonely island. Meals started on time. Soft conversations returned. Ludovica laughed more often, not loud, but warm, gentle, real. The staff, once stiff and terrified, relaxed their shoulders. Their steps sounded less like ghosts, more like people. The mansion, which spent years frozen in silence, finally learned how to be human again. And Domenico, he didn't fight the warmth anymore. He allowed Margarita to walk freely near his mother. He allowed the calm atmosphere to stay. He allowed the house to breathe. He didn't change who he was. He was still the boss. Still sharp. Still feared. Still cold when the world demanded it. But inside the mansion, around the people he cared about, his edges softened. Quietly. Slowly. Only for them. Only in ways he controlled. And only in places where no one outside his world could see. He didn't become warm, but he stopped being ice. Then came the night, everything came full circle. Dinner was served at the long table. Not one plate. Not one chair, but several. Staff ate nearby. Ludovica smiled throughout the meal. The mansion glowed with soft light instead of darkness. Everyone spoke in calm voices. Everyone felt safe. And at the far end of the table, where the story began, there was no loneliness, no silence, no emptiness. The opening of this story was one plate, one woman, one cold room. The ending was warmth, laughter, light. The Costantino mansion, the coldest house in the region, finally became a home again. Not because of power, not because of wealth, but because one person walked inside with nothing, yet brought everything the house had been missing. And the family that once lived in shadows learned how to live again. My beautiful family. Thank you for staying with me till the very end of this story. I love you all so much. Your support means everything. Please, don't leave without doing one small thing for me. Like this video. Share it with someone you care about. Subscribe if you haven't yet. And drop a comment. Tell me what touched your heart the most. I want to hear from you. I want to know your thoughts. We are one family here, and your voice matters. Do you want more Mafia stories like this? Should I continue the series? Who was your favorite character today? Tell me in the comments. I'm waiting for you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for feeling this story with me. Thank you for being part of this family. I appreciate you truly.